Hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to the show, guys. I am so glad you're here. If you are new here, my name is Monica. I am your host, and today's episode is a bit of a mix of celebrity drama, courtroom chaos, and a Hollywood mystery that makes people raise their eyebrows more than even 15 years later. In our first segment, we are diving into the legal battle that lasted nearly 2 decades and honestly reads like a comedy sketch, except the people involved weren't directly laughing. One pop star, Katy Perry, ended up with a 17-year trademark fight with an Australian fashion designer who also happened to be named Katy Perry. Same name, same industry space, and apparently neither side is willing to blink. This case has gone back and forth through multiple courts and finally landed in Australia's High Court, raising some surprisingly big questions about who actually owns the name in the age of global celebrity branding. And then we'll talk about another BBC story that adds more context to how bizarre the legal feud unfolded behind the scenes, including emails and some pretty blunt language that came out during the court proceedings. After that, we will do a quick update on a previous case we covered here on the show, which is like super exciting because I haven't done little follow ups. We're just going to do a quick one. And this involves a Michigan woman whose disappearance shook her community for years before investigators made a disturbing discovery on her own property. Then in segment two, we are diving into the tragic but still debated death of actress Brittany Murphy. I love Brittany Murphy. This is a rewatch for me, and I wanted to cover this. I recently watched it. It's the documentary that is on Hulu. It is called What Happened to Brittany Murphy. And the deeper you go into the story, the stranger it becomes. So, two deaths, the same house, the same medical causes, and a whole lot of behavior from people around her that left investigators and the public asking a lot of questions. And finally, we will end with a mom moment, including a surgery update, a toddler mystery rash, a pillow that might have saved my neck, and perhaps the greatest parenting victory of the week. My son has finally stopped pooping in the bathtub. It's been really exciting stuff, you guys. Honestly, if you know, you know. So let's get into it. First up today, the legal fight that just refuses to die. One side, we have a global pop star, Katy Perry, and on the other side, we have an Australian fashion designer, Katie Taylor, who operates a clothing brand using the name Katy Perry. Yes, the names are basically identical, except Katy, the Katy Perry pop star, is spelled Katy, and the fashion designer is Katie. So, yes, the same name. And similarly, it's exactly what sparked a 17-year legal feud. Katie Taylor was actually born with the name Katy Perry and begun building her clothing brand in Australia in the mid 2000s. She registered the Katy Perry trademark for her clothing in 2007, launching a small fashion label in Sydney, Australia. At the same time, Katy Perry, like the international singer that we know, whose actual name is really Catherine Hudson, was rising to international fame after adopting the stage name Katy Perry for her music career. For a while, the two careers existed separately. One woman was running a small fashion brand in Australia, and the other was becoming the most recognizable pop star on the planet. But the collision came in 2009 when Katy Perry toured Australia and began selling Katy Perry branded merchandise like clothing and accessories for her concerts, which makes sense, like why wouldn't you have merch at your concerts? But that is when the designer said, wait, hold on, that's my trademark. According to court records, Katy Perry's legal team actually sent a cease and desist letter to the designer during that time. And from there, the situation just completely escalated. So, years later, in 2019, the designer formally sued the pop star, arguing that selling clothing under the name Katy Perry in Australia violated her trademark rights. At first, the court sided with the designer, which, she patented that name in like 2007, And then the appeals court overturned that decision. Then the case climbed all the way to Australia's High Court, which finally ruled in 2026. And the result? The court ruled in favor of the designer, saying that her trademark was valid. The judges even suggested that the singer's merchandise sales were done despite knowing about the existing trademark. It basically is the legal version of David versus Goliath, a small business owner versus an international superstar. And this time, the small business won. Now, the BBC reporting on this story added a few details that make the whole situation even more dramatic. So, during this case, internal emails surfaced showing that Katy Perry's management team had actually known about the designer's trademark as early as 2009. In fact, the singer's manager reportedly acknowledged that the Australian designer had already been trading under the name Katy Perry. And here's where things got spicy. So, emails presented in court show that the pop star herself had some strong opinions about the whole situation. In one message, she reportedly referred to the situation using some pretty blunt language and suggested she wanted to stay out of the public response entirely. Now, to be fair, celebrities probably deal with a lot of bizarre legal issues, I'm assuming. But still, imagine being the designer watching this global superstar essentially say, yeah, I'm not going to get involved in that. Meanwhile, you're running a small clothing label and trying to protect the name that you literally were born with. So the court ultimately concluded that there was evidence that consumers were actually confused between the two brands, which makes sense when you think about it. If someone walks into a boutique in Sydney looking for a dress, they probably aren't expecting it to be sold by the singer of Teenage Dream. You know what I mean? But legally, the case became a major example of how local trademark rights can clash with global celebrity brands. So now let's switch gears a little bit to a case we previously discussed here on the show. So, Michigan woman Dee Warner disappeared from her rural property in April 2021. At first, investigators treated it as a missing persons case, but things quickly began to look suspicious. Dee's phone stopped being used, her bank accounts went quiet, and she was never seen leaving her property. Family members later described her marriage to Dale Warner as deeply troubled. For years, the case remained unsolved. Then, in 2024, investigators made a horrific discovery. Dee Warner's remains were found inside a fertilizer tank on the couple's property, sealed and labeled out of service. An autopsy determined that she had died from strangulation and blunt force trauma. Prosecutors argued that Dale Warner killed his wife during a domestic dispute and then attempted to hide the crime by concealing her body inside the tank. After a lengthy trial, a Michigan jury delivered its verdict finally on March 10th, 2026. So this was just 5 days ago from the day I'm recording this. Dale Warner was found guilty of second-degree murder and evidence tampering. For Dee Warner's family, who spent years searching for answers, the verdict finally brings some measure of justice to this story. And I am so happy to be able to update you guys on this. All right, guys, we're just kind of cruising through today, and we're going to stick with this celebrity topic somewhat today. And we are going to just move into the story that still fascinates people to this day and honestly still confuses a lot of people too. The death of actress Brittany Murphy. And before we even begin unpacking this story, I just want to say something personal. Brittany Murphy was one of my most favorite actresses ever growing up. She had this incredible ability to completely steal any scene. She was funny, she was charming, she was emotional, and she had this energy that felt really genuine compared to a lot of Hollywood personalities that I saw growing up. So I really, when this happened, when Britney passed, this was really, it was emotional for me just because she was literally my most favorite actress ever out there. So this is why I wanted to cover this story because I loved her so much and it just happened to pop up on my my Hulu scrolling, and I wanted to cover this. So we're just going to get into it. So Brittany first became wildly known for her role in the 1995 teen classic Clueless, and I feel like everyone's seen this movie. Well, at least people my age. Anyone like my age has seen this movie. And she played a girl named Ty, the awkward new girl who gets a full makeover and becomes the unexpected star of the movie, honestly. Many fans still say that she practically stole the entire film over her counterparts who were supposed to be the main characters. And then after that, her career it really took off. She was in films like 8 Mile alongside Eminem, the romantic comedy Just Married with Ashton Kutcher, and the fan favorite drama Uptown Girls. I've seen all of these movies multiple times, and she crushed it in all of these movies. She also did voice acting and television work, including appearances on Spin City. But behind the scenes, her personal life was becoming really complicated. Brittany had an extremely close relationship with her mother, Sharon Murphy. Many people describe them as inseparable, sometimes even to the point where Brittany seemed to be caring for her mother instead of the other way around, which some might say is a really not healthy dynamic, but it is what it is. That's how their relationship was. In 2006, Brittany met a British screenwriter named Simon Monjack, and within a year, they were married. And from this point on, many people close to Brittany later claim that Monjack became extremely controlling of her. Like, he was managing her career, he was speaking on her behalf, and sometimes, he was like the gatekeeper, acting between Brittany and the outside world. So from the sound of it, it sounded like Brittany really lost her voice. That I'm not going to say that's true, but that's just the way that people described it. That's the way I'm perceiving it. She no longer felt in charge, or it appeared that way at least. So several colleagues and former associates later said that they noticed major changes in her behavior and her appearance. Then everything came to a shocking halt. On December 20th, 2009, around 8 o'clock in the morning, a 911 call is made from the Hollywood Hills home of Brittany, who she shared with her husband and her mother. So Mama was living with the newlywed couple. Brittany had collapsed in the bathroom. Paramedics rushed her to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Despite attempts to save her life, Brittany was pronounced dead at 10:05 a.m. She was just 32 years old. Anytime anybody dies too young, it breaks my heart. And especially, again, for somebody such an up and coming star to pass so early just wrecked everyone. The news stunned fans and the entertainment industry everywhere, nationwide, worldwide. And, how does a healthy 32-year-old suddenly die? The investigation quickly revealed a chaotic situation inside of the home. Authorities found dozens of prescription medications scattered throughout the house, nearly 90 bottles in total. 2 months later, the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office released its findings. The official cause of death was pneumonia, severe iron deficiency anemia, and intoxication from multiple over-the-counter medications. The death was ruled accidental. According to investigators, Murphy had reportedly been suffering from flu-like symptoms for weeks and had not sought medical treatment. Even with that explanation, the public reaction was basically, wait, how does a young actress die of pneumonia in this day and age? Then the story took a twist that made everything even stranger. Just 5 months later, on May 23rd, 2010, another emergency call comes from the exact same house. This time, Simon Monjack had collapsed. Paramedics again rushed to the scene, but Monjack was pronounced dead that night, and the cause of death? Ironically enough, pneumonia and severe anemia, the exact same medical conditions that killed Brittany Murphy. Naturally, this fueled massive speculation. People began asking questions. Was there something in the house? People started suggesting, could it have been toxic mold? Though investigators later said that there was absolutely no evidence that mold contributed to their deaths. Brittany Murphy's father, Angelo Bertoloni, even believed that she may have been poisoned and later commissioned independent hair testing that reportedly showed elevated levels of heavy metals in her hair. However, those claims were rejected by officials and never, like taken into evidence, or like they didn't think it was enough to reopen the case. So officially, the conclusion just remained: two tragic deaths caused by an untreated illness and complicated by medications. But emotionally, for fans, the same story has never felt like it was complete and that there were still tons of missing pieces to this story. Two people dying in the same house months apart from the same medical causes is incredibly unusual. And when you combine that with the strange media interviews and the isolated lifestyle and the chaotic environment surrounding Brittany Murphy in her final years, it really leaves a lot of people wondering if they ever fully got the full picture of everything. Like, why was reportedly, like supposedly, her mother sleeping in the same bed as Simon after Brittany passed? And the reason being that they were mourning together, which I'm sorry, it's bizarre to me, but I guess again, everybody mourns differently. There was also reportedly a pill prescription bottle with the name Sharon Monjack on there. That's a little weird to me too, especially considering if they found that many prescription bottles inside the home, why wasn't any of that on their toxicology reports? Neither Simon's or Brittany's had any of that. And so then, rumors started flying about arsenic poisoning and all these things. So I feel like there's still tons of questions that weren't unanswered. And yeah, I'm just kind of skimming this story. So if you guys want to watch it for yourselves, it is on Hulu. Just type in Brittany Murphy and it'll pop right up for you. But yeah, like the whole story, I don't like it. I don't like the facts and the evidence that were presented, but then like nothing was done with that information. Just the whole story is so sad. Nobody should die that young, especially a healthy 32-year-old, like pneumonia. Like it's just, you don't hear of it. And it's just really ironic that two people within 5 months passed of the exact same thing. So regardless of the unanswered questions, one thing is clear. Brittany Murphy left behind a legacy of unforgettable performances and a career that could have continued for decades. She was talented, she was funny, and she was incredibly unique. And her loss at just 32 years old remains one of Hollywood's most heartbreaking tragedies. I hope she is resting peacefully, and yeah, that's gonna do it for our segment today. All right, welcome back. Now, let's end this episode with a mom moment of the week, which honestly feels like a whole saga right now. So, first, surgery recovery. Overall, things are going really well, which I am extremely grateful for. The healing is happening, energy is slowly coming back, and my body is clearly doing its thing. However, there is one incision site that still keeps bleeding. And it's really difficult for me to heal this wound because it is in a high friction area. So, nothing scary, nothing dramatic, just one of those like annoying recovery situations where your body's like, listen, I'll heal when I feel like it. So it's manageable, just mildly irritating. I am going through dressings like crazy. It sucks because again, the area that this wound is in is a high friction area. So it's like I have to constantly keep changing the dressing and make sure that it's not going to get infected. And I feel like we're almost 2 weeks out and it's just not healing. But I'm trying to remind myself that healing is not a race and the body does what it needs to do. So now let's talk about the toddler situation. My son recently developed a mysterious rash just across his back. And as every parent knows, when your kid randomly develops a rash, your brain immediately jumps to, is this normal? Is this serious? Do I need to Google this? And you know what happens when we go down the Google trend or the Google search engine. Oh my God. Yeah. So I did. I Googled and I went down an internet rabbit hole, of course. And it's either nothing or it's the worst possible disease ever. So my chart, I went on my chart and I messaged my doctor a picture of the rash, which again, it started with just like this little rash on his back by his neck. And then it just like exploded all the way across his back. And it almost looks like it's like hives. And all they told me to do is get some Zyrtec, like the liquid Zyrtec for children, and, just one dose for a few days and see if it works. Meanwhile, he is completely fine. He has no fever, no change in behavior. He's running around like a tiny tornado as usual. So we have tried creams, ointments, lotions, basically the entire pharmacy aisle, and we're just keeping an eye on it at this point. So the first night we gave him the Zyrtec, I did put like the Aquaphor lotion on his back, and that seemed to have helped a little bit. Like it's still there, but it's not as like prominent. We're day 2 now with that routine, and I don't know, it's still there, but it's going away. So maybe it's working. And they couldn't really tell us what was causing it because I guess kids get hives and rashes all the time. So it is what it is. Parenthood really just turns you into a part-time doctor, nurse, and medical researcher all at once. And now we can get into the real parenting victory. And if you are a parent, you will appreciate this moment. So my son has officially, like, I thought it was like last week, it was like a full month, but it really wasn't. But he has officially stopped pooping in the bathtub completely. I can't even remember if I covered this last week or not, but yes, maybe I just thought it in my head and I was like super excited about it. Or maybe I did. I have no idea. But we have apparently exited this phase of life, because if you've ever been enjoying a peaceful bath time moment, bubbles, toys, and cute toddler splashing, and then suddenly you realize you are now dealing with a code brown aquatic emergency, the trauma then. So the fact that this phase appears to be over is something I will absolutely celebrate. And finally, let's talk about one thing currently saving my sleep: the Mellow Sleep Cloud Align pillow. I have been using the same pillow, you guys, for like 10 years. 10. I know it sounds really gross, okay? But when I bought my mattress, they had this like tester pillow and I was completely obsessed with it. It was called like I Love My Pillow or something like that. It was like a memory foam pillow. And I did love that pillow. I really love that pillow. And I'm pretty sure the company went out of business. Needless to say, same pillow that long. I am sleeping on a flat pancake and it was absolutely terrible, which, apparently means I had slowly been flattening a pillow for the past decade. But this new pillow, life changing, is maybe a term I would use. I am still getting used to it, but I can actually feel like the tension in my neck and my shoulders completely releasing. It's taking a little time to adjust because my body apparently had adapted to sleeping like a medieval peasant for the past decade, but the difference has been incredible. And honestly, sleep is sacred when you're parenting a toddler. So I will take every single win that I can get. This pillow, you guys, is amazing. I will link my code so you can get some extra discounts on it. Really great pillow. I couldn't be happier. All right, guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. We've covered quite a bit, actually, from a 17-year legal battle between two women with the exact same name to a devastating murder case update in Michigan. To the mysterious and still debated death of Brittany Murphy. And then, of course, we wrap things up with real life chaos, surgery recovery, mysterious toddler rashes, bath time disasters, and the ongoing search for the perfect pillow. If you enjoyed today's episode, the complete randomness of it, really, make sure you follow the show so you don't miss out on the next one. And I really love to hear your thoughts, especially about the Brittany Murphy story. Let's discuss that. Drop your comments or questions in the comment section. Do you think it was simply a tragic medical situation that spiraled out of control, or do you think that there was still unanswered questions about what really happened? You can always reach out, send your thoughts, or continue the conversation. Aside from that, again, I am linking that pillow in the show notes so you can get some extra discounts if you yourself are sleeping like complete trash and you need a change. I really, really enjoy this pillow. I'm sure it's not for everybody, but if you need some new options for yourself or just want to treat yourself, try it out. I think it's pretty affordable compared to a lot of those crazy pricey pillows on the market. So, again, guys, thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow, share, like, and until next time, stay curious, stay skeptical, and maybe double check the bathtub before bath time. I will see you next week. Thanks so much, you guys. Okay. Love you. Bye. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The facts are fuzzy. Our stories and opinions are just that, stories and opinions, not meant to be taken as professional advice.